Hello, this is Daniel Raymond, the voice behind Ray's Guide. Well, we've just had a huge information dump on Star Citizen Alpha 3.23 with both an Inside Star Citizen extravehicular particulars and a Star Citizen Live all about 3.23. Now, I try to do analysis videos rather than the quick and simple reacts and hot takes, but I still need to get something in on these items before they become superseded by next week's new content from Jared's team. So here goes. Thursday's content was Inside Star Citizen, started with the new EVA system in 3.23 and how they are changing from what they might have called NASA-style EVA to what they definitely did call the Iron Man pose. So, question 1, is this realistic? If so, why don't NASA astronauts use it? Because current technology spacesuits have rigid seals between the chest and helmet that really don't let you tilt your head up or down very much. So it would take a 30th century improvement in spacesuit technology. Fair enough, no real problem there, but Sir Isaac Newton has a few other issues that I'm curious about too. First, will we be able to negative pitch but not positive pitch? What do I mean? Bend over and touch your knees. Easy, I hope. Now bend backwards and touch your calves. Unless you are a professional contortionist, the latter is impossible, and even then definitely impossible while wearing a backpack and weapons on your back. So will we always have to roll and then downward pitch? Okay, but then come to think of it, how are we rolling with such alacrity without friction or thrust? And how are we achieving friction along these surfaces without being able to apply any force against it? In 0G, any attempt to get friction from a surface by pressing against it would push us off the surface. First law of motion and all that. You better think fast because Sir Isaac is about to demonstrate motion by chucking that apple right at your head. The answer is found in Iron Man, or rather kind of a counter Iron Man. Micro thrusters on the wrist and ankle that don't just push like Iron Man, but also pull gently on your arms and legs. Bend at the knees and engage positive or negative for pitch, counter engage for roll, and swivel your hips and engage for yaw. When trying to move along a surface, engage them, perhaps with a little help of micro switches at the fingertips, to press your hand against the surface and thus be able to get friction. And then the same system could also be used to walk on surfaces in 0G if you wished, but unlike mag boots, would not require ferrous metal surfaces to work. Sir Isaac Newton improves. But that brings up our other favorite way of moving in EVA, one that's definitely not Sir Isaac Newton approved, and that is the tractor beam. And there was no mention of it, and I'm sure hope that it hasn't been eliminated. The video showed characters moving while shooting, so I'm presuming that this is how using the tractor beam would look. But if we turn to this downward position and use the tractor beam, would we be flying feet first, or would we be pulled around to the head first position? I'd love to see this included when they cover this feature next, as they undoubtedly will. Then there was the new Personal Interaction Environment and System, or PIES. Yes, yum, PIES. See, it isn't that hard to come up with a better name if your first choice is, well, pissy. And the wheel is a vast improvement over the list, and prompted interaction will help new players greatly. And I only have one suggestion, actually coming close to a demand, and that is to be able to toggle visibility of it off with a hotkey, just like F12 for chat, and for exactly the same reason. A substantial part of the community in Star Citizen use it to create machinima and other forms of storytelling and tutorial content, and random prompts popping up all over the place would spoil the recording and storytelling. So simply have a cinematic mode hotkey that disables any non-diegetic elements from the first-person view. Easy enough. But then overall, thank you, Jared's team, for a very exciting Inside Star Citizen episode. Then on to Friday and Star Citizen Live. The first roughly third was recaps of the previous day's subjects, with little that was actually new. Then came the distribution centers, which I am pleased to think that they are going to have different versions with different components. As I've commented earlier, I could see relatively few of them having the luxurious executive suites shown at CitizenCon, and I'm still looking forward to the massive underground production facilities previewed 2 years ago. Then master modes, and I took heart in their saying that they're working hard to get master modes on all the ships, which is definitely a huge task. And it is the part that I am most curious about. How will master modes work on a racer? How does it work on a massive cargo ship and trade ships? Since I'm not a hotshot dogfighter, I have mostly observed the debate on master modes in Arena Commander from the sidelines. And even there, I feel like some things haven't really been explored. Like, how does this emphasis on up-close attacks work with stealth craft? I know they want fighting to be up close, that you see the ship details, but fundamentally, stealth and missiles are long-range tactics. There is a lot I'm looking forward to hearing when they promise to get into this more 4 weeks from now. The fact that all but a few ship weapons will now have gimbals built into the weapon themselves, rather than needing to take a size down penalty, is going to change almost everything about how we think the loadout of our ships. And will it be a particular benefit to larger, slower ships that we previously felt we had to take that disadvantage to get weapons on target? So I think it may be time to get over to Urkel and start experimenting with fixed weapon loadouts on your ships, knowing that fixed weapons aren't actually going to be fixed anymore. So, for example, say hello to my upcoming all-gimbaled Avenger Titan loadout. Yum yum. That the new Starmap has a search feature was also a very pleasant revelation. The news of the cargo elevators and instance hangars is interesting, but I'm still waiting on the detail of whether and how we will be able to have cargo automated loading if we wish. What I am hoping to hear when they do talk about this is that can I direct things being brought from storage to a ship that is in the stored state at the local location instead of the cargo elevator? Then if I do, the idea would be to change that ship to a loading state with a countdown timer, similar to the insurance claim, and also like the insurance claim, I can pay for an expedited timer. Then they had a calming scene, and then returned to talk about the economy. And unfortunately, the calming scene did not work because what followed did not leave me feeling calm. Far from it. The economy team, apparently the entire economy team, was Andre, Nick, and in the U.S. off-screen, Connor. The name Tony Zurovic was not mentioned in the entire segment, nor, even more significantly, much at all resembling the concept of a dynamic economy, which is considered a minimum requirement for an MMO, not just now, but 10 years ago when Chris Roberts published a summary of the dynamic economy in Star Citizen. They were talking about changing the ship price table, the armor price table, the weapon price table, like it was the 1990s, when they should have been talking about the in-game metrics and algorithms that will be driving prices, not manual input. The quantum economy, which, in order not to confuse it with all the other things that CIG wants to call quantum, I will just call zeronomics, was absent both in word and thought. The last we have heard from Tony Zurovic was on May 24, 2021, approaching 3 years ago. And the last word on zeronomics was that they were satisfied with the work completed so far, but no work was being done on it at the moment. Notably, that announcement came not from Tony Zurovic, but Benoit Bozinger of the Montreal office, 1,674 miles from Tony Zurovic's last known location. So what? Oh, what to make of this? Well, what I can deduct is that this team of three, like so many other CIG employees, have just come off of the Squadron 42 development, where they came up with the static list of values for Squadron 42 because single-player games generally don't need dynamic economies. So they put their heads to the most immediate target, changing a set of static ship prices in the game because that will support ship pledges. But you may point out that they said that pledge prices weren't changing. But the value of pretty much everything is time. And by taking longer to earn in-game, the greater the value of spending real money to bypass that time and leapfrog ahead. And like all discretionary luxury goods, the sale pitch is,
They can be proud of owning that ship.
How proud of yourself you will feel for having it. But if all they talked about was tables of values, what of zeronomics? When I connect the dots of all that we are seeing, the unpleasant picture that is drawn is that it has reached its iCache moment. For those of you who don't catch the reference, iCache was the technology that had to be scrapped and gone back to the drawing board in order to create the entity graph and replication layer. iCache actually worked, but it couldn't offer capacity at scale to the needs of the verse. And for various reasons, I suspect that zeronomics is suffering a similar fate. The small-scale test of bounties and a half dozen commodities across a few dozen locations worked, when the next step we should have expected of scaling the number of locations, number of commodities, and number of alternate paths was, for unexplained reasons, never attempted. So my unhappy conclusion, which I would just love to be wrong, is that Tony Z, being unwilling to go back to the drawing board, or unwilling to accept it is even necessary to go back to the drawing board, has, in the nomenclature of the post-pandemic, quiet quit the project. I know that is an unpleasant thing to say, but honestly, what else fits the observable phenomenon? So, what has to happen is that these three people, and whoever they report to, need to go back and watch this video from 10 years ago and ask themselves, what do we need, and even more important, who more do we need, in order to make this a reality at the scale of the verse in a reasonable time frame? Because honestly, in 2024, this 10-year-old video represents the minimum acceptable dynamic economy for an MMO. Star Citizen has been limping along for so long with just static tables. Thinking addressing the game economy system is in any way to be found in just keeping adjusting the static tables is completely mistaken. Eventually, the static table economy will make Star Citizen seem horribly dated, no matter how state-of-the-art everything else is. So, what about my promise in this channel to not complain without offering specifically how it could be done better? Am I really going to propose an entirely different Star Citizen dynamic economy system that will be more feasible to implement? Yes, but time's up for this video. But I'll tease that a hint of it is to be found in this 10-year-old video by Chris Roberts. So now for our two shipping giveaways, the first being the Zippy Zazzy Zafty Zephyr, the Zeus 2 cargo, as well as our larger goal, the magnificent multi-role mining meta, the Arasta. 1 entry per video, be a member for automatic entry, or comment including the secret word. And the secret word for this video is my nickname for Tony Zerovik's Quantum Economic System. Fly safe, keep it real, and I'll see you in the verse. This is Daniel Raymond for Ray's Guide.